My sister-in-law passed away in a freak accident, but my husband is accusing me of doing it myself. This is long and ridiculous. Sorry. My 30F husband, Luke, 33 meters, had a sister, Laura, 29F. We were all close and saw each other 2 or 3 times a month, along with their parents. Almost 6 months ago, Laura fell down the stairs at their family home and passed away. It was a freak accident. There's a window on the half landing and she hit her head on the sill. I was the last person to see her. I was there for less than 10 minutes and she was in her pajamas making coffee. I didn't even stay for a drink, and I struggle with how such a brief and meaningless interaction could have been her last. She deserved so much more. My husband and I have only been married for a year, but we've been together for 4 and have known each other for over 20. When Laura's parents found her, they called my husband straight away and we rushed over. We faced the whole thing as a family. In the days after, Luke started quizzing me. Exactly what we talked about, what she was wearing, where we were standing, etc. It progressed to saying I was providing conflicting information on tiny details he was deliberately misunderstanding, and accusing me of withholding information because I couldn't tell him things like what pajamas she was wearing. This escalated quickly, but lasted for less than a week, as I lost my cool and made it clear that I was done answering questions. He didn't bring it up again and I wrote it off as a grief quirk. His behavior was generally that of a normal, grieving person. Last Friday, he outright accused me of ending her, in front of his parents. Out of the blue. We were all stunned. There was an inquest which recently concluded, and there was never any doubt the verdict would be accidental passing. He said it was completely obvious and he couldn't believe that no one else could see it. He claims I went through his phone and found his messages with Laura. I have absolutely no idea what messages he's talking about. I have never looked at his phone, and that I went over to confront her and things got out of hand and I pushed her downstairs. By the end he was shouting about going to the police and getting the inquest overturned, and how I wasn't going to get away with it. Let me be clear, Laura and I had a great relationship. We all did. I have no idea where this has come from, other than these messages I haven't seen, and even then, I don't think there's anything I could ever see on someone's phone that would drive me to do something like this. It's just ridiculous. He's been with his parents since this happened and will not talk to me at all. I've had some contact with his mom, but she is not being very communicative. The last I heard, she didn't know what messages he was referring to either. I'm still completely stunned and I have no idea how to proceed. I made a commitment to be there for him always, and I understand that grief can manifest in strange ways, but part of me feels like my love for him died the second he accused me of that, and I don't know how we could possibly work through this. I also really don't want to be thought of in this way, and I have no idea if he has said anything to people we know. I obviously haven't. A brain tumor or psychotic break has crossed my mind and I suggested it to his mother, and she just said she'll talk to him. Other than the questions before, he hasn't been acting odd. Obviously he's been grieving, but he seemed sane and sensible other than this. I feel like I'm going mad. Does anyone have any advice at all? TLDR, my husband's sister passed in a horrible accident, and my husband, for absolutely no reason other than some mystery messages, thinks I ended her.
AITA for accusing my 15-year-old daughter of stealing from me and cutting her off when she refused to admit she did it. I'm 47M and a single father to my daughter Kate. Her mother is unfortunately out of the picture, so I don't have much help in the way of parenting, which is why this happened. I have other family, but I don't really want them involved with the parenting since it's something I always wanted to handle myself. So before you judge, please understand this. About 2 months ago, I couldn't find my credit card anywhere, and despite checking the numerous places it could have been, I thought it had been taken. Since Kate and I are the only ones that live here, I thought she might have had something to do with it. I asked her if she knew where it was and she said no. I went back to looking for a bit, but after I still hadn't found it, I thought it may have been stolen. I had it shut off and then thought about who could have stolen it. The only person I could think of was Kate. So I tried to get her to confess to stealing it and she wouldn't budge. I tried being calm, but after some back and forth I eventually snapped and yelled at her to tell me where it was and why she took it. She was crying and saying she didn't take it, but I didn't believe her, so I went through her room and couldn't find it. I figured she took it somewhere and I was just so mad at her that I called my sister, Annie, and asked her to take Kate because I thought she was a little thief. Annie came and took her, but told me that I shouldn't accuse her of taking it because she knew Kate wouldn't have done it and that I've lost stuff before and found it in unexpected places. I told her there's no way I'd lose something this important and that she had to have taken it. We argued back and forth, but eventually I was so angry because I thought Kate stole my card that I yelled that I didn't want to see that stealing be until I got my credit card back. I guess she heard what I said because I heard some sniffling and felt really bad, but Annie took Kate and left. I was still angry, so admittedly I trashed her room in hopes that I might find it, and still nothing. I ended up replacing my card since I figured it was gone for good. I hadn't spoken to Kate out of anger and figured it was for the best since I don't think I'd have anything nice to say anyway. Last week I replaced the couch, and while I was taking it apart to clean it before I sold it, I found the damn card under the cushions. The one place I didn't think it would be, it was. This meant that Annie was right and I felt horrible for Kate. I called Annie and told her I found, and she rightfully yelled at me for being an idiot. I asked if Kate could come home and Annie tried getting her to talk to me, but she refused and said she's not coming back. Annie then told me that she's been depressed since this happened and had to put her in therapy because she almost took her life over this. I didn't realize that what happened would have led to this, and I am so scared to think that I could have lost Kate the same way I lost my wife. I broke down and asked what I could do, and Annie just said that I probably screwed up our entire relationship and that I should work on moving on. This is bothering me so much. I know I screwed up, I just want to know what I can do to get her back. I miss my daughter and all the good times we had together. She's been the only thing keeping me here since her mother passed, and I feel alone without her. I don't want to force her to come back, otherwise I would have just filed her as a runaway and risked my sister being charged with kidnapping, but I want her to be okay around me again. AITA for what I did with the only knowledge I had at the time, and how do I get her back? My normally gentle and kind girlfriend defended us from a burglar. The other night I was sleeping over at my girlfriend's. She lives one street over from the middle of nowhere, no street lights, no sidewalks, and keeps her house dark at night except for the room she's in to attract bats and attract bugs. I think it was like 2 a.m. when I woke up to my girlfriend telling me to call 911. Long story short, a guy had broken a window into the garage and was going through my car. He had a knife, but my girlfriend had a shotgun, unloaded, and wanted to scare him off with it. Cops really gave us a verbal shakedown for that, by the way. We're effing idiots and don't ever confront a burglar. But this guy was clearly unhinged and charged us. I don't really remember how it happened, but my girlfriend somehow tripped him, or maybe he tripped on his own, and then started basically tamping this guy's ribcage down into his lungs with the stock. I had to physically stop her. A little bit about my GF. She cries when she sees sick or hurt animals. She's constantly doing or offering to do nice things for people. She won't even squish bugs, she catches them and releases them if she finds any. She's a Buddhist. Non-violence is important to her. Before this, I described her as the gentlest person I knew. So what the F? After I stopped her, she was so calm. She sat cross-legged on the floor and then made a call to a lawyer before the cops even got there. No charges for GF, yet. Lawyer has been helpful, cops less so. They wanted to arrest me when they got there for some reason. And my GF had to actually ask for an ambulance for the guy because they tried to just load him into the police car and he was screaming and moaning. He lived but is still in the hospital. It's been 2 days since this happened and I still feel like my heart is racing. Every time I see my GF I see her covered in blood with a shotgun. It hasn't changed how I feel about her, but goddamn. It's changed how I see her. Edit, clarifying a few things. I didn't think this would get any attention. First, GF is doing good, all things considered. Someone was worried that the blood was hers. The guy came in pre-wounded because there were bloody handprints on my car. He was definitely on something. My GF is currently taking a bunch of medicine since she was exposed to his blood too. GF hasn't talked much about what happened and I'm not going to push her right now. I am worried about her. I am taking care of her. I've been staying with her since this happened. And feeding her. Someone said to bake a cake. I am a professional chef. Also, apparently, an idiot. After this I am going to the store. A lot of people seem to think my view of her has changed for the worse. That is deeply untrue. Rereading my post, I realize I made it sound that way, so that's my fault. It's still pretty fresh in my mind and I'm processing things on the go. I was just having difficulty reconciling this new view of her with who I thought she was before, but I realize now that she hasn't changed. I just learned more about her, and what I learned is that she's a certified badass, to quote many of you in the comments. Also, a lot of people are calling me out for not helping more. Don't get me wrong, I feel guilty that I didn't do much other than call 911 in the moment. I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses for myself because I was still absolutely scared shitless, but my GF didn't really give me a chance to help. This all happened very quickly. By the time she woke me up she was armed and out of bed. I'm deaf in one ear and a heavy sleeper anyway, so I'm glad she woke me up at all. I'm not sure why the shotgun wasn't loaded. She only told me afterwards. I was expecting her to shoot him, not beat him half to death. The cops. I won't get into it, but my GF has had issues with the local cops before. She lives in a town that barely qualifies for its own police department, and the one they do have has nothing to do 99% of the time. They seemed like they were in a rush to get finished with us the whole time they were there. I think they were probably pissed off they got called out on 4th of July for something that actually requires paperwork. Thank you everyone in the comments. I've read every single one of them so far. There's a lot of good advice there, and a good amount of deserved criticism that I am open to.